pretty Spider-Man'd out these days. Doctor Strange was a movie that didn't quite do it for me back in the day. Maybe I was in the wrong kind of mindset at the time, and maybe those 6 beers I had beforehand didn't help. But I always had the suspicion that the film relied on its strong cast of actors and mind-bending visuals to hide the fact that the plot wasn't particularly strong or interesting. It also featured one of the most forgettable villains since that bald guy from Ant-Man, which is a fucking crime considering you had Mads Mikkelsen to work with. The point is, I'm not exactly thrilled at the prospect of a sequel. Maybe I'm wrong on this one, and I'll be pleasantly surprised when the Multiverse of Madness comes around, but I can't shake the feeling that it'll be just another very expensive special effects demo. Taika Waititi gets a lot of credit for reinvigorating the floundering Thor series, injecting some much needed levity into a character that was kinda stodgy and boring. And on the surface, Thor Ragnarok seemed like great fun, at least until you started to look a bit deeper and realised that he basically spends the whole movie playing second fiddle to strong female character and strong female antagonist, and getting his ass kicked by both. It also started the unwelcome trend of using him as the butt of everyone else's jokes. I mean, it's great that his movies don't take themselves so seriously now, but there's a pretty fine line between levity and mockery, and I think Taika doesn't really know where that line sits. I also have the sneaking suspicion that he doesn't have a whole lot of respect for the character or his mythology. The fact that Thor Love and Thunder is going to have strong female character as the new ruler of Asgard, and Jane Foster taking Thor's hammer away from him kinda suggests that he's really just there to prop up his more diverse replacements. And well, that just kinda sucks for a character that's been through so much over the years. Black Panther was, in my opinion, one of the most overrated movies in the entire MCU. A film that pretty much everyone was too afraid to criticise, so it ended up getting so much wild, over-the-top praise that it actually became kind of laughable after a while. Like everyone was in some kind of competition to see who could lavish the most obscene accolades at its feet. Anyway, a sequel was as inevitable as me needing a second liver transplant, but the tragic death of Chadwick Boseman left Marvel with the difficult choice of either recasting the character of T'Challa or having someone else take up the mantle of Black Panther. Neither option was preferable, but in the end they chose the second one, with the rumour being that Shuri would become the new protagonist. Fucking great, the most annoying and insufferable character in the first movie, now expected to hold up an entire franchise by herself.
I'm sure you did your best.
Yeah, good luck with that one, guys. You're gonna need it, trust me. Captain Marvel was one of the most hilariously ridiculous movies in the entire MCU. A 2-hour feminist power fantasy for the blue-haired land whales of the world to feel vindicated as they go home to their empty, cat-infested apartments, featuring a character with all the charisma of a toll booth operator, played by an actress with all the charm and likability of my underwear after a chicken vindaloo. Marvel basically had to play every trick in the book to prop this film up, changing the functionality of online review sites to block negative opinions, and conveniently releasing it right in the middle of the 2 biggest movies in the MCU's history, instead of releasing Black Widow, which is what they really should have done. Captain Marvel was once slated to be the new Iron Man, the face of the MCU that everyone would associate with the brand. Then they realised that nobody fucking liked her, which was why she barely appeared in Endgame, and her sequel isn't due to slink out into cinemas until 2022. Honestly, I can't wait for this one, because I just know that they absolutely won't learn a single lesson from the storm of controversy and backlash that erupted around the first film. And without its big brothers, or the MCU's red-hot momentum to protect it this time around, I think it will be very interesting to see how well The Marvels manages to stand on its own 2 feet. Ant-Man's never exactly been a heavy hitter in the MCU. I mean, his first movie was a fun but ultimately undemanding heist flick that you could enjoy at the time and then comfortably forget 5 minutes after leaving the theatre. Then, for some reason, the sequel decided to make him a background character in his own fucking movie, delivering a dull and predictable story that killed what little momentum he actually had. So you'll excuse me if I'm not exactly thrilled at the prospect of a third outing for The Wasp, featuring a possible guest appearance by Ant-Man. And of course, there's the long-awaited long-awaited Guardians of the Galaxy 3, a movie that got pushed back after James Gunn got himself into a spot of bother on Switzer. But it's funny how easy it is to bounce back from stuff like that, provided you say the right things. Anyway, I'm sure this one will be perfectly fine. The first Guardians was an unexpected hit, proving that the right filmmaker can take even obscure third-tier characters and craft an interesting story around them. The second movie was flawed but mostly still fun, and provided Gunn doesn't drop the ball on this one, I'd imagine that Guardians 3 will end Phase 4 on a much...
This dude is very negative. Very negative, to say the least. What? 20 minutes have elapsed? What the heck? Oh, I thought it was 11:50. It was 10:50. Okay. That's good. I thought it was almost 12 a.m. Like, what the heck? Gosh, it's hard. But I like his criticism. He's critical. He's very critical. Very critical. But
high note, which is just as well, because the more I think about it, the more I realise that there really isn't a whole lot to get excited about in the next phase of the MCU. With most of the big players either dead or departed after Endgame, it really feels like they're scraping the bottom of the barrel for new characters to build the franchise around, and what they have left isn't exactly inspiring. I mean, really, is anyone out there excited to see the Eternals, or Shang-Chi, or a third Ant-Man movie? I've said before that Marvel used up their best storylines and characters with the end of the Infinity Saga, and that realistically, there's no way they'll be able to build up something as epic as that again. And having seen what they've laid out for the next several years, there's really nothing to make me change that opinion. You may also have noticed a conspicuous focus on diversity in the Phase 4 lineup, which I guess was to be expected. I mean, don't get me wrong, it seems like a good idea on the surface. It certainly makes sense to have characters from different backgrounds and cultures to add a bit of variety to the series. The problem, as always, lies in the execution. Shows like WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter soldier, leaned far too heavily on identity politics, aggressively trying to lecture their audience about the evils of modern culture, rather than presenting a fun story with interesting ideas and allowing them to form their own opinions. And if that represents the tone and style of the MCU going forward, then all I can say is, I hope you like losing money, Marvel. The fact that their movie releases have been stalled for more than a year due to the unspecified virus of unknown origin has really hurt the momentum. Streaming services have exploded over the past year for obvious reasons, and a lot of movies are now getting simultaneous releases, which is a nice idea in theory, but the problem is that once a film's able to be downloaded, you can bet your arse it's going to be on the high seas within a matter of hours. All of these different elements, the uninspiring lineup, the looming prospect of divisive political lectures, the struggling movie market, the stalled momentum, and the general lack of any central narrative to drive things forward, all combine together to paint a pretty bleak picture for the MCU. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure they'll still have the occasional hit, and I don't see the franchise going away anytime soon, but it really does feel like they hit their creative and financial peak in 2019, and they're unlikely to recapture those glory days ever again. But hey, it was fun while it lasted, I guess. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Life's a funny thing, isn't it? It seems like just the other day I was talking about how none of the movies in the upcoming Marvel Phase 4 lineup seemed particularly interesting or exciting to me. Oh wait, it was just the other day. Jesus, how much have I been drinking?
My first thought would be a lot.
Anyway, one of the biggest entries in my don't give a fuck list was The Eternals, a movie about a bunch of comic book characters that I'd never heard of before, starring a bunch of people I don't care about, with absolutely no sense of personality, intrigue, or anticipation. But wouldn't you know it, yesterday the first trailer finally dropped, and all of my concerns